Sigh. Divorced. Yet still wants someone with a house and a car. Plus being handsome, charismatic, and having good character. Where would this person even come from? And they can't be someone exposed to scorching sunlight? You, born in 1985. Don't you think you're asking for too much?
Honestly, it's a bit excessive. I think the most important thing is health. I don't work. Living off my parents. But the man who marries me must fulfill one requirement, which is to have 20 million yuan in his pocket, a monthly salary of at least 6 million, and at least 3 cars, as well as at least 3 houses. I truly don't understand why Chinese men complain so much about us, the so-called leftover women. They call us demanding, but let's be honest, who's really asking for the impossible here? These men expect youth, beauty, and the ability to bear children, something entirely out of our control. Meanwhile, all we ask for is a partner with stable conditions, someone who can provide us with a comfortable life. That's not an unrealistic demand, it's something they can actually work to achieve. But for us, turning back time to our 20s? That's not just unrealistic, it's impossible. So why do they complain so much about us when their own expectations are far more unreasonable? I'm 33, educated, successful, and independent. I've built a life for myself that many would admire. I have my own home, my own car, and a career that gives me financial freedom. Yet society constantly tells me, lower your standards. Be less demanding. I've tried. I've met men with stable but modest jobs, men who own a home with loans or have some savings, and I've been willing to give it a chance. But do you know what happened? The conversations fizzled, the connections fell flat, and nothing moved forward. Why? Because even when I lower my expectations, I refuse to lower my self-worth. Here's the kicker, these same men who accuse us of being too picky are clinging to their own absurd standards. They want youth, beauty, and energy, paired with independence and maturity. How does that even work? They criticize us for wanting stability, something achievable with effort, while demanding the impossible from us, eternal youth and fertility. It's not just hypocritical, it's insulting. And let's talk about effort. Why are we as women expected to constantly compromise and bend over backward? Why are we labeled difficult when we stand up for what we deserve, yet men are never called out for being lazy or entitled in their search for a partner? Society has a lot to say about women who are single in their 30s, but very little to say about men who bring nothing to the table yet demand the world. I've been told to be proactive, to reach out first, to show interest. But why should I chase someone who doesn't even meet the bare minimum of what I'm looking for? Why should I lower myself to fit into their unrealistic box? Love is supposed to be a two-way street, but it feels like we're always expected to carry the burden. Let's be real, if I lower my standards any further, I won't just be compromising, I'll be sacrificing my happiness and self-respect. And for what? To meet society's expectations? To please men who think they're entitled to us simply because they exist? No, thank you. And here's the hard truth, if men don't start improving themselves, they'll find fewer and fewer women willing to settle. Women like me aren't leftover, we're simply unwilling to waste our time on men who bring nothing to the table. If that makes me proud, then so be it. I've worked too hard to settle for less, and I won't apologize for that. So instead of blaming us, maybe these men should take a hard look at themselves. If they want amazing women, they need to rise to the occasion. Otherwise, they'll be the ones left wondering why no one wants them. And honestly, that's not our problem, it's theirs.
Let me share my experience. It's so frustrating, you know? I'm a single woman in my early 30s, and it feels like the whole world has something to say about my life. Recently, I decided I wanted to find someone, but I'm not lowering my standards. Why should I? I'm not wrong for wanting the best for myself. For example, the other day, I asked a friend for help introducing me to someone. I made it clear that I was looking for a man who works in the public sector. That's not asking for too much, right? I want someone stable with a solid career. But as soon as I explained this, I realized how much people judge our choices. My friends started telling me how competitive it is to find men like that, how they have so many options, and how their families and friends are already lined up to arrange marriages for them. I listened and thought, so what? Does that mean I shouldn't want the same? She suggested I consider men who work for state-owned enterprises because they are also stable and sometimes even earn more. But that's not what I wanted. I'm not trying to compromise my dreams just to make things easier. Of course, she emphasized how slim my chances are. And it got worse when I mentioned I work in another city. She practically laughed at the idea of a local public sector man being interested in someone from outside his bubble. And this is what bothers me. People think that if you're an average woman with a regular job, you should settle for anything. It's like they're trying to convince me that I'm wrong for wanting more. But here's the thing, men on the other hand have far worse demands. They want young women in their 20s, still in their prime, who can have children. That's something I simply can't change. I can't turn back time. Meanwhile, we women just want someone stable who can offer us a comfortable life. That's something they can achieve with effort, but our flaws, in their eyes, are completely out of our control. So yes, I know my standards are high, but at least they're realistic. I'm looking for something attainable, something that can be achieved. Yet somehow, when a woman sets standards, it becomes a problem. They call us demanding, but no one talks about the absurd pressure they put on us. I'm not going to lower my standards just to please anyone. I know who I am, I know what I want, and I won't settle for less. If that means staying single for a while, so be it. Better that than regretting settling for something that doesn't make me happy.
When we reach middle age, women have a greater need than men for a high-quality married life. Why do I say that? Hello, everyone. I'm Liu Jiao Mai, and come hear the reasons shared by others with me. Generally, when people reach their 40s, the passion between the couple fades. There are no more sweet words every day, and not much communication. In daily life, the couple focuses on the children or the kitchen, work, or daily tasks. They end up living a very simple and uneventful life. But Wang Yi, who is 43 years old, says, "You don't know, the older I get, the emptier I feel, the lonelier I become. I feel the need to talk more, to have company, and to communicate with my husband." He realized that by communicating and spending time with his husband, their relationship has gotten better and better. Another woman, 48 years old, shared that she pays a lot of attention to her appearance because, with age, she no longer has the body and beauty of young women. She said that if she doesn't take care of herself, she's afraid that one day her husband will betray her. She tries to create romantic moments and bring novelty to the relationship to attract her husband's attention, not wanting to wait until he looks for a younger woman and regrets it. When that happens, she knows all that will be left is crying at home. An online friend, Aunt Chen, said that in the past, she and her husband were very busy with their own lives. Suddenly, the children grew up and didn't need their care anymore. Now, looking back, she sees that after the children grew, she and her husband have more time for themselves. They started doing things together, like traveling, going to the movies, going out for afternoon tea, and just enjoying life together. They are doing everything they couldn't do before and making up for the lost time. She believes that, in addition to keeping her husband close, their quality of life has also improved. That's why women usually demand a higher quality married life than men. Do you also have this perspective? Leave your thoughts in the comments to interact with me.
Why do most women refuse to lower their standards in arranged marriages? Arranged marriages could be something simple, but they end up becoming quite complex. The majority of women refuse to lower their standards, and this happens for three main reasons: resistance to accepting the situation, fear of lowering their quality of life, and fear of marriage. First, resistance. Many women, when they were younger, had the chance to meet excellent men, but for various reasons they missed out on these opportunities. Observers from the outside usually advise, "You've been searching for so long and haven't found someone suitable, it must be because your expectations are too high, you need to lower them." However, the woman in question thinks, "If I lowered my expectations, I would have already been married. Why wait until now? Should I really find a man who is worse than the ones I've already encountered just because I'm getting older?" If she lowers her expectations, she feels that all the previous efforts and choices become meaningless. She doesn't want a mediocre, dull marriage. The second reason is the fear of lowering the quality of life. We can't deny that, with the same income, most women tend to spend more money, making their lives more sophisticated and comfortable. For them, even if they consider marriage, they don't want to give up the quality of life they've already achieved. After all, living well is essential, and only once they are content with themselves can they think about other aspects like marriage. For these women, marrying a man with fewer resources than they have doesn't just mean a loss of prestige, but also a decline in their quality of life. They fear that, over time, differences in values and lifestyles could negatively affect their own well-being. In such cases, they prefer to live alone and enjoy the freedom of single life. Finally, the fear of marriage. Not all older women who are single are alone by chance, some choose this because of their fear of marriage. Whether due to past trauma or family influence, these women have a different perspective on marriage. When they observe their friends' marriages, which are often full of constant arguments or endless conflicts, they'd rather enjoy the freedom of being single than enter into a relationship that might be troubled. In the end, life is theirs and they want to be responsible for their own happiness without relying on a marriage that doesn't bring satisfaction. Life is ours to live as we choose, and both men and women should take responsibility for their own decisions.
剩女在城市飘零，光棍。
The leftover women are scattered in the cities, while the bachelors sink into the countryside. This is the most mismatched phenomenon in today's marriage market. Although there are 3.49 million more men than women nationwide, there are still more leftover women than bachelors. But what about the bachelors? Most of them are in the countryside. Why do women remain single? It's not necessarily because they come from high education or high-income backgrounds. Most of them are just ordinary workers who can barely support themselves. However, they tend to be independent and are not influenced by traditional views on relationships and marriage. There's also a group that, while not particularly outstanding themselves, prefer men who are better than they are. Another group comes from rural areas, attracted by the city's allure, but they can't go back to their previous lives. Leftover women have choices. If they were willing to lower their standards, they would likely already be married. But bachelors? They don't have any choice. If a man fits into 3 categories, first, poor, second, unattractive, third, emotionally unintelligent, there's a high chance he will remain single for life. Of course, we can't change our origins or our looks, but the one thing we can change and what people appreciate most is developing emotional intelligence. If you choose to become a person with high emotional intelligence, your work, career, and even marriage will be much smoother. You will make women feel that living with you is a joyful experience. The other 2 conditions won't matter much. This year, I visited the home of an older man looking for a wife. He is an only child. His parents work in construction and had already bought him a house and car for his wedding. The family savings account has, at least, 7 figures. Considering the rural context, this is a very good condition, but he's already 32 years old. Nowadays, very few matchmakers still visit his house. His parents are very worried. The man is handsome and tall, but when he meets strangers he becomes very shy. Every time he goes to a blind date, he gets nervous and appears insecure. Do you think any woman would marry such a man? People complain about the high dowry, but many families in the countryside don't care about that, as long as you agree to marry. Therefore, to change the fate of bachelors in the countryside, there needs to be self-reflection. Teaching children to develop confidence and emotional intelligence is essential. Leftover women who want to marry a quality man don't necessarily have to look for one in the city. The countryside can be a good option. If you try hard enough, you can make a man from the countryside become the quality husband you want, buying a house and a car in the city if you desire.
To get married, I really didn't care about anything else. When I realized I needed a man to marry, I thought my expectations would be high, but in reality, all I wanted was someone who would be good to me. I'm 25 years old, not so young anymore, and I broke up with my boyfriend 7 or 8 years ago. Since then, I haven't been with anyone. When we were younger, we were childhood friends and had a great relationship. We were together from middle school to high school, but when we went to college, we were apart for a while. It was during this time that he started drifting away from me, cheated on me, and even tried to blame the distance, saying that was the reason for what happened. Not long after we broke up, he married another woman. On my side, I spent those years focusing on work, saving money, and I managed to buy a small apartment in the Hushi area.
My parents, seeing that I was feeling a bit down, decided to help me financially, thinking that a dowry might help me get married soon. That's when I decided to seek help to meet a man who was interested in marriage. I just wanted someone with compatible interests and values, and someone who was loyal. Oh, and a small detail. I preferred him to be from Tianjin.
I don't see a very promising future for the Chinese population. Besides the demographic and economic crises the country is facing, there's this big dilemma between men and women, and believe me, it's hard to handle. On one side, we have men, especially those who have already reached a stable position, wanting a young woman who can give them children, something that fits traditional standards. On the other side, we have women who have been left behind, those who are past the ideal age, wanting, yes, those men who are in good financial and social conditions, but not willing to lower their standards and settle for a man in a worse condition than theirs. In short, we have two groups seeking completely opposite things, and while it may seem simple, it's a deep dilemma. But to be honest, as I've mentioned in other videos, I actually find this dilemma interesting. Deep down, I think it's a dilemma without any false intentions, where both sides are at least being honest. They aren't playing games, they aren't hiding what they really want. They tell each other directly what they are looking for without beating around the bush, something I really respect. When I see comments saying these women are too demanding, I do agree, but at the same time, I see that at least they are clear about their expectations. In my opinion, this is quite different from some women in the West, for example, who end up playing these games wanting to be with a man who doesn't meet their expectations, but settling due to a lack of options. When a man with a better condition appears, they rush to him without thinking twice. And of course, I'm not generalizing, because the world is big and there are countless people and situations. But speaking generally, my opinion on this dilemma is this. I won't go into too much detail since I've already discussed it in other videos on the channel. But I want to know your opinion. Do you prefer a woman who directly tells you what she wants, or do you prefer those who play games and aren't so clear? If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I'll see you in the next video.